Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photography chat today. We have a special guest, Jimmy West. And I'm not familiar with Jimmy West in general. He's a relatively new channel for me as well. So a lot of the question I'm going to be asking out of my sincere curiosity about Jimmy and his photography. And that's where we want to focus today, is on Jimmy's sort of take on photography, the craft itself, the storytelling, and a little bit about gear maybe. But uh, I wanted to offer, when I do these sort of special guest live streams, is offer you something that I don't generally offer myself on my channel, because I'm more of a tips, tricks, settings guy, uh, more pragmatic in that sense. But really, photography is much bigger topic, right? It's about the craft, capturing the moment, so to speak, and storytelling. And I found Jimmy's channel to be very refreshing in that sense, that he's not obsessed over the gear itself, right? He's always talking about when he goes out and takes photos, his approach and thought process to capturing images. And more recently, he talked about not having a subject in your photos at all. And if you look at his Instagram, and there'll be links down below to his channel, so I highly recommend you subscribe and also check out his Instagram and follow him there. It's very, very different than mine. Very different than my photography, because my photography is more technical. I try to show you settings I use to capture images and the kind of results you get using those settings, versus Jimmy is out there and really has a very unique style. And I find it really interesting. So I wanted to draw on his experience and his thoughts on how he captures images that he does. We'll be sharing some of the images here as well. So without further ado, let me bring in Jimmy. And there he is. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Awesome.
I'm doing pretty good.
Good, good. So like I was saying, I really don't know you very well, but I have watched a few of your videos, and they really impressed me in how you convey your photography. And it really makes me think about let me say, it really helps me think about my photography from capturing the image and storytelling, versus say, how did I capture this image? That's how I normally look at it. How do I capture this image? But you think about more of the, like, why am I capturing this? What is this image going to do for me and anyone that looks at it? And it's really amazing. So, but let me start out with some basic questions. Like, where are you from? Where are you at right now? I don't even know, to be honest.
So I'm in southeast of Sweden, Västra Götaland, it's in a small community, and I moved here 3 years ago with my fiance, and so we basically moved from a house out on like nowhere to this place because it was more central to everything.
Yes.
And around that time is when I picked up for photography again as well.
Oh, okay. So, because a lot of your photography is there's nothing particularly striking about the location, but the image itself I find very striking.
Yeah.
And that's what really drew me in your photography. So you're
There's
in
no
Sweden.
wow factor in my photos.
Yes. So there's the Sweden. Okay. Wow. So I bet. So you got like the wooden shoes and the stale bread, or am I thinking of something else?
No, you're very correct. I don't have them myself. Or stale bread I do have, but not the wooden shoes. But they're really, really popular, and I should get one because sometimes you just walk outside and it's so easy to just use them. So I should get a pair.
Absolutely. Yeah, do a whole video on that. But anyhow, let's go back to your photography. You're in Sweden. Like I said, the location doesn't appear to be very striking, but I found your photography to be very striking. And I'm very envious actually of the kind of images you captured, because I know I've been to many locations like that. There's very mundane, boring areas, at least boring to me. And I know there's a photo there, there's a composition, there's a story, but
Mm,
I just I just don't see it for whatever reason. And that's why I wanted to ask you some questions about that.
absolutely.
Uh, but let me ask you, you know, the reason I found you, so to speak, is, YouTube threw up a random thumbnail about Micro Four Thirds, and it was about micro jitters or something, which we don't need to get into. But I saw you're using an OM5, and I wanted to just ask you what what brought you to the OM system camera, and why you chose that camera for your photography.
Yeah, so it's actually quite random because I had no clue what a Micro Four Thirds camera was before I actually got it.
Hmm.
I think I saw a landscape photographer on YouTube, and I looked on his like gear list, and I was all like, OM system OM5, what is that? And I thought it was like a big format, like, because he's a professional landscape photographer, and I thought it was like a medium format, large format, then Micro Four Thirds, like the biggest of them all. Like, and then I looked at the price. What the? That was very cheap for a big camera.
Yeah.
And I realized that this is actually really small, and I already had problems with my Sony A7 II with the 2470 on it,
Hmm.
holding it, because I do get some wrist pains.
Mm.
And so I basically just looked it up, and without doing any research, basically, I went to Gothenburg. I went into the store, Götaplatsens Foto, and I told them, so I want this camera. And he looked at me like, why? What do you
Uh-huh.
have now? Oh, no, so I have a Sony A7 II. And you're not going to go with Sony? No, I'm going with this. Okay, here we go.
Hmm.
And I paid and I left, basically. So it's nothing deeper than that, really. I had no clue what I was actually buying into, but I'm
Hmm.
really happy that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny how much similarity there is between us in terms of cameras. I went into the store looking for a smaller camera. Uh, I knew nothing about Micro Four Thirds. I was shooting a full frame D750 at the time, and I picked up an EM10 Mark II, and really never looked back. It's
Yeah,
been a great experience for me, and for the same reasons, smaller, lighter camera. Why carry around all this heavy gear all the time when really you don't need to? But uh,
exactly.
and just one other camera, just real quick, is I brought it out, but I noticed you also have the same SRT 101.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
actually.
So,
Actually, my 101 actually died. The shutter broke, so I got the
oh,
303 instead. But I'm using the 45 millimeters on it. This has actually been a
uh-huh.
really fantastic camera.
Yeah. It
It's
really
yeah,
is. It really is. So I just thought that was funny. We both shoot on a system. We both have an SRT 101, and we kind of got into photography, as you said, kind of the same way. Just I want this camera. It's nice and
yeah.
small and gets the job done. So that said, uh, before we go deep dive into your photography, I wanted to touch on just somebody picks up their camera and try and make it as generic as possible, in this sense that what are the settings that you generally use when you go
Mm,
out, and just something a beginner could just pick up an OM5 or whatever camera and just start shooting, so
yeah.
that the camera doesn't get in the way and they can just think about their composition and storytelling.
Yeah. So I shoot an aperture priority
Hmm.
99% of the time, because that
Mm.
covers everything I do, basically. So always pretty much aperture priority. But what I do, I'm not sensitive to noise and stuff like that in my photos, and I do not really care if there's digital noise there or not.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is set my minimum shutter speed to 6400, and
Wait. Shutter speed or
oh,
ISO?
no, sorry, yeah, exactly. Minimum ISO to 6400,
Uh-huh.
and my minimum shutter speed, depending on what location I'm at, if there is windy or not. Because if there's completely wind still, there's no wind, I can use like 1/60th of a second, and I
Right.
can use that long into the evening. But if there's a lot of wind, I would probably go like 1/250th as a
Mm-hmm.
minimum shutter speed. And that's all I do pretty much. And
Okay.
what I love about aperture priority is that, especially shooting on mirrorless, is that you can just basically see how bright or dark the image actually gets
Right.
by just turning a dial. And I think that's been working really, really good for me,
Mm-hmm.
actually. I have a few custom settings, like using the function lever to go to movie mode. But that's basically just for my YouTube when I'm out just and I need a B-roll or something
Mm-hmm.
of something, and I can switch it over and it's in video. But that's nothing really to do with the photography
Right.
per se. So
Okay, that's a,
basically,
mhm, go ahead.
sorry. So basically, all I do: aperture priority, maximum ISO of 6400, minimum shutter speed 1/250th, and then expose for what I see, pretty much.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It's kind of a nice hybrid way of doing full manual without having to go full manual, right?
Yeah, pretty
Because
much.
if you don't set your minimum shutter speed, the camera may pick like a half a second.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, uh, and so you're just using auto ISO between the base and 6400,
Yep.
and uh, but yeah, I like the idea of just setting your minimum shutter speed. That's a great idea, because typically I shoot mostly full manual now, which is ironic,
Mm,
but uh, for a beginner, I think it makes a lot of sense, because that is a common problem, is their shutter speed's not fast enough and they get motion blur, whether it's like the wind blowing a tree or it's
yeah.
moving, or just that micro jitter you've talked about in some
Yeah.
other videos. Shutter
Exactly.
speed is really the biggest mistake I see in a lot of photography that for people starting out.
Yeah.
So that's a great tip. Um,
I think one of the most important parts as a beginner, especially, is that uh, not taking on too much work on yourself and just enjoy the process. And it sounds a little bit deep, but
mhm.
if you make it as simple as possible and then you learn as you go on, that's, in my opinion, one of the best practices.
Yeah. Yeah, practice in general, right? Just get out there and
Yeah.
shoot. And I think you've also talked about um, analyzing or being very critical of your own photography.
Mm.
You look at your images later. Tell me a little bit about that process and what you look for, or how you think about your own photography when you're going over the photos you took from, say, today or yesterday or whatever.
Yeah. So usually, I think it's actually really hard to look at my own photos and be critical, because
Hmm.
how do one know what to look for? How do I know how to critique myself? But as I started getting real like photo books from people I get inspired by, like one of the greatest photographers in Sweden is Jan Töve, really, really great photographer. And I actually met him a while back here as well.
Mm.
Um, when I started looking at his images, because he literally walked the same roads as I do now, because he doesn't live far away from here, I started looking at his work and I felt this, like, wow, how does this simple thing become so beautiful? Like I remember one picture where it basically has a road going up like this, and then there's this bank going down like that, and you have a third layer of the sky, and it's basically just 3 triangles going like this. You have road, you have a bank, and you have a sky. And I remember sitting there. How can this be so simple and so beautiful at the same time? So what I did when I started learning how to critique myself was actually taking basically the same photo as he did, but I tried to copy it like to 100% to see what did he see that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And when I managed to do that, like when I actually managed to realize how he did it, how he saw it, when I went back to my own images, I saw my own wrongdoings. Well, wrongdoings is very relative, but it became easier to see, oh, he would probably have done like this. And this is not about copy someone else's style or anything, but it's more about how another person interprets the scene. Like we talked about a little bit earlier today, that if I would start with wildlife and stuff like that, my scenes would probably be completely different from yours, even though we shoot the same thing. And that's because we interpret the scene differently. But seeing how another photographer would probably see the scene, that has helped me to analyze my own photos better, if that makes sense. Of course, this is not the only way. This is just how it kind of unlocked in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
after
do you think when somebody's kind of struggling with their photography, like they're not happy with their images, you'd recommend them try to copy someone else that they like and try to understand what they're seeing, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Not necessarily to just go down the same route and copy everything, but try to realize and try to learn what the photographer saw in that place. Well, it doesn't have to be the exact same spot, but you can find a car by a street corner everywhere you go, pretty much.
Right.
So if you find a photographer with that kind of photo that you really like, you can do pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, and that's a great example, because I just saw a photo of a car on the street that I thought was amazing, and I'm like, how come I didn't see that? You know, how come I didn't see how that reflection of that building on the car kind of mirrored things in a way and created this symmetry? And then I don't know, but I understand exactly where you're coming from. Is really, looking for inspiration, but also trying to understand what it is about that photo that you liked, and how can you add that into your own photography.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. But a lot of times, and like I said, a lot of times I'll go out and the scene is just boring to me, and I wanted to share I wanted to share a screen. How come it's not?
Technology, you know.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, no worries at all.
There we go. I wanted to share this. Hopefully, this is your Instagram account.
Yeah.
But we've all taken, well, let me rephrase this. I've taken pictures of laundromats, shadows, barns, cars, and all of these are just really striking to me. I mean, they're just so simple, but yet I find them, the the processing itself, the color palettes that you chose, the composition, these are just kind of normal everyday things.
Mm.
Nothing, like I said, nothing striking about the location, but the images have a certain cohesiveness and just elegance to them that I would never be, I've never been able to do myself. And I was really impressed with, something as simple as like this laundromat. Uh,
Yeah.
but let me let me come back to you. So that's what I wanted to ask you is like, how do you walk into a location that is unremarkable and, like a boring scene and capture images like the ones I kind of shared there that I found very striking?
So I work as a service technician in professional laundry equipment. So I literally repair those machines that you saw. When I had my
Mm,
camera with me, that's because I actually did some kind of work in there. But I always get fascinated by light. Let's call it geometry and shapes. Kind of, if you look at the images, you will always see like they're a little bit asymmetric or something. Like in the corners, I will not put one corner in the middle or something like that. Something's cutting off the image, and I kind of liked in those scenes. I just how do you
okay.
explain something that's come to you naturally? That's really hard, but
Uh-huh.
I try to be observant. I try to realize that everything. Now this is going to be a little bit deep. Everything in life doesn't come to you easy, because if you want to, everything can be remarkable. Everything
Mhm,
can be remarkable as long as you can appreciate everything you see. If you
mhm,
see a dying flower right in between a bunch of living flowers, it's kind of beautiful. It's
mhm,
something like that sticks out. And being in these laundry equipments, how many laundries have I been in and never thought of taking a photo? And then I saw, I think it was Nick Carver, and he was at this, I think it was like an old clinic with like MRI machines, stuff like that. And it kind of inspired that, like, okay, I
mm.
literally walk in these places every day, every single day. Well, 5 times a week at least.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, why don't I just bring the camera with me and
Mhm,
see if I can see something? Because it's so easy to walk past every single thing every single day
yeah,
without actually paying attention. You just basically think of when you walk down the town, and how many people do you see like this all the time?
yeah.
Like, people are not paying attention, and I've kind of come to a point where I started trying to pay attention to stuff around me. And I think that has led me, like, it doesn't come over a day,
Mhm,
but paying attention to every little detail, you will notice a lot of beautiful things in everyday life all
mhm,
over. And it even applies to your own home. How many
mhm,
times can you walk into the kitchen and you see like the blinds is half open and you see those lines on the ground, on the floor?
mhm,
Think about it. That's beautiful. It's beautiful
mm,
light. It doesn't have to be a subject or object or anything,
mhm.
but just the light per se is beautiful. And I really try to take that with me every single day. Not every single day works, because we're all humans. We have things to
Right.
think about. But I really try, and that's the best you can do, really.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I think I enjoy photography so much is it did make me much more aware of the surroundings that I'm in and really how much beauty is there. And I think, you have to have a certain curiosity as well about the subject. So, I've cited this example many times about water bugs. They're very common, right? You see them on the water all the time, but they're really fascinating little insects when
Yeah.
you get into them, and like dragonflies. But when it comes to coming into a scene, I think you've used the word this setting the stage, or finding the stage and finding the frame. So when you want to frame something up, like uh, don't have to use a laundromat as an example, but and if you have any examples you want to share, just let me know. But the how do you frame when you find something interesting? How do you start to frame it, or how do you think about framing the image? Uh, before
So
you take the picture.
yeah, it's all about, like, normally when I'm out on my gravel roads, when I've been working on my project Mellanrummet, or the spaces in between, the free translation, I
Mm-hmm.
basically just been driving with my car like 30 kilometers per hour or something, and then I just glance something over like this, and I see something, just hit the brake, throw in the reverse, and
Mm-hmm.
go back, and I see something. I don't know what it is yet, and I'm just looking, and I decide to like park to the sides of tractors and whatnot can pass,
Mm-hmm.
and I go out. I take the camera with me, but I don't raise it directly, because I have to analyze what caught my eye, because
Mm-hmm.
the thing that caught your eye can be like a split second, and you have to like think about, you have to analyze, okay, why did this thing caught my eye, or what did actually caught my eye,
Mm-hmm.
what was it that really. So what I do is basically get out of the car, take my camera with me, but I stand there at the scene 5 minutes, maybe sometimes more, and I think, and I'm just analyzing the whole scene, because I know basically what my camera sees is this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm looking at the scene, I can see like that. So I'm trying to focus my eyes to different parts of the scene. Meanwhile, I'm analyzing that information in my
Mm-hmm.
brain. And not before, sometimes I just take the picture because, okay, I can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot. So sometimes I just take the picture, and when I get home, not maybe a week after, I will look at the image and I see, okay, I see now, because as I said earlier, I've learned to critique myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
can see afterwards, like, oh, okay, I see now, the tree there was lining perfectly like that, and I
Right.
can kind of come back later, and because all my drives are basically 30 minutes away from home, unless I go
Mm-hmm.
to the sea.
Yeah.
So
So let me ask you, what would be like some of your favorite shots? Like we all have our own little favorites, but if you're to frame an image, what do you look for that are sort of the ingredients to coming up with the perfect with what would be a shot that you really like?
I'm going
I
to
mean,
try to share my screen here.
okay.
Let me see.
Hopefully you're better at it than I was.
I think, let's see if I can figure this out. Oops, I didn't mean to open that. There. Yeah, this should be working. All right, can you see this image right here?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can put this in full screen somehow. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like this. You're
Yeah,
gonna have
that's
to.
fine. That's fine.
This is one of the images that I really, really enjoyed taking, because I'm standing literally on the road right here, but you can't see that at all. What you can see is a cut-off windmill, and if the thing with this image is that if these windmills weren't here, this would be, yeah, you can kind of guess it's a windmill, but without these supporting windmills, it doesn't give any context to the image. And I decided that I wanted, if you think about this image, it's always cut in triangular everywhere. It's always triangular. I saw directly. I literally knew exactly how I wanted to frame this image right away when I saw it. But let's move to, can I? No, I can't switch the image. Why can I not?
Okay. Well, before you move on,
Yeah,
what I see here is, you know, very strong geometry with the triangles, as you mentioned. Really nice leading lines from the shadows from the
yeah,
bottom left and bottom right corners. The texture of the field there, uh, in the bottom, where I guess that's grass or some kind of field.
yeah,
And then again, the context of the windmills in the background. So there's a lot of sort of standard, I would say, rules to composition that you followed here that I think you probably captured instinctively, framed
yeah,
this. But seeing that just off the side of the road randomly and then being able to capture it is a whole different, takes it's something I think you acquire with just practice and going out more often. But I think I just wanted to share what I saw,
mm?
uh, and this combination of things really make it a really, like I said, a very striking image, I think. So,
It's
um,
absolutely one of my favorites from this year so far.
mhm,
And this actually became one of the main pieces of my exhibition, my recent exhibition as well.
mm,
I had three
nice.
images that became a little bit bigger than the others, and
Okay.
this was one of them. And I think because I look at it, to me it looks kind of powerful but serene at the same time. It looks
Mhm.
very calm, and what you can't see in this image was that it's really windy here. These turbines were spinning really, really fast.
Mm,
And I think if I would have used a slower shutter speed to get that motion, the image would also have a complete different feeling.
yeah. Yeah,
Because,
definitely.
yeah, and that's basically the only creative decision I made at a moment when I saw that, okay, I
Mhm.
want to freeze it. I want to capture the feeling of this powerful shadow with the sun pretty high, but I want everything frozen. I want it to be still. I want everything to be like it's frozen in time.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So yeah, and it's a great image. Did you want to try and move to the next one?
Yeah, I think I have to do it like that. And we're going to uh, this one instead. Let's see if I can share this one. Doot. Share.
Oh, it's not there yet.
There it is.
Okay, I got it.
I think this one is a little bit more complicated
Mm,
because when you first look at it, yeah, you have some nice leading lines into the image and everything, but then you also have some rule breaking, if you will call it that, where the tree completely cut off here. Normally, maybe you would have stepped back even further to get the whole tree, but this is one of the, what I say is a complicated creative image because Mellanrummet was all about seeing the traces of humans in nature. That was the whole like thing about Mellanrummet. And you have this, you can see that I'm zooming right now, right?
hmm Yeah.
So you have this home here, and you have
hmm
some barns and whatnot, and there's the house, and you can kind of understand that. Okay, so this is probably their field. This is probably
Right.
where they are working. So I kind of framed, even though if you look on the far right here instead, you have this another windmill, and that kind of, if you think about it, kind of grounds the whole the theme of the project, because you have this big powerful windmill, and then you have all this calm, like the normal everyday you see, and this big tree. So even though it's a simple image, I found it hard to know what I wanted to frame. And I walked this road up and down on the left here, over and over, to see, because I fell in love with the tree, but I didn't know, do I want just a tree with a field? And what you can't see, by the way, there's a tractor back here as well on the right corner. Do I want the tree and frame the tractor, or do I want the scene to feel like a place where people are, where people work?
It's really interesting. You intentionally framed it this way for that reason, or because in one of your videos, I really liked one of your statements about you're trying to tell a story, but it's not your story. It's what story does the viewer have that's looking at it? It's their story. It's not yours.
Yeah.
And the story here for me is, as you've pointed out early on, is the farmhouse and the barns in the background, but you frame that under the tree, so it stands out. It's not just background, right? It's actually one of the main subjects. And then, you have this sort of juxtaposition of this windmill on the far right, which, I don't know, is a really nice accent. It's only probably about 20 pixels of the image, right? It's very few pixels there, but it's very powerful in the image, and it just makes it really adds a different sort of feeling, or it adds to the story somehow. And like I said, even it's just a few pixels on the right, it's a really powerful accent or powerful image with that in there. And then of course the normal compositional things, the leading lines of the grooves that the tractor made, but it's a lot more than that. Like you said, it's a very complicated image, and there's a lot of elements here that, as you point out. So I just wanted to share what I saw very briefly.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's that's beautiful photography as well, because you have so many different views. Depending on who's watching the image, they feel something differently, and they see something differently in the image. And I think that's one of my favorite things, actually. Just because, I mean, my red thread through Mellanrummet is the traces of humans in nature. So you will never see a living person or a dog or something like that, but you will always see something that humans have put there that grounds the image. That's the red thread through the whole project. And then it's just nature. And another thing in my image is I almost always use a lot of negative space, because I want the image to breathe like a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest differences you'll see between our two accounts. Is all my images is like 2/3 of the frame is the subject, but in your images, like you said, you give it a lot of room to breathe. And like I said, I encourage you guys to check out his Instagram for that. But so you are looking at, and the leading lines were not only leading lines in that image, but they also provided some texture.
Some
and there's
context.
and there's a really good contrast, with the very almost totally black tree. It looks like you maybe shot that on film, based on the tones that I could see.
It's actually digital.
Oh, it is a digital? Okay.
Yeah, it's
But
on
it,
a file.
yeah, the tree was completely black almost, right?
Yeah,
In the shadows, and then you had very strong highlights in the sky. So good dynamic range in the scene. And then of course, uh, just the composition of the tree framing the barn house. Like I said, even though the barn house again was probably very few
it's
pixels
really
of the
small. Yeah,
image, but it was really very powerful, you know. Um, and that's what's really interesting. Maybe I'm starting to find a theme here in your photography. I don't know. Like I said, you're very new to me, and I was really impressed. So I wanted to. So all of these reactions and thoughts are, you know,
yeah,
fresh. Uh, but that leads me kind of into like the storytelling part of it, and I wanted to quote something you quoted,
yeah,
and I'm going to get this totally wrong, but a cat in a cat bed is not as is just a picture, right? It's not a story, but a cat in a dog bed is a story. Something it was something along those
yeah.
lines. Um, but how do you think about telling a story in your photography? Again, it's your story, but then again, it's also the person looking at it. It's their story.
Mm,
But you start with, I think you call it a stage a lot of times. I just call it a
yeah,
frame, but
mm,
stage makes a lot more sense if you're going to talk about storytelling, because when I say, did you capture the frame, it doesn't necessarily imply that I'm capturing a story. Whereas when you say I'm setting the stage, right?
yeah.
That directly, leads you into think, okay, now what story am I going to tell? So if you could elaborate on that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say that I think YouTube has destroyed the term storytelling in photography, because you always, like, if you're a beginner and you start YouTubing and you look at videos, people always say, you need to tell a story in your images.
Mhm.
You need a story. But what does that actually mean? I think that's very subjective to the individual person. For me, I think I tell the best story through projects. That's kind of what I've realized working on, especially Mellanrummet, that having this cohesive red thread, as we say it in Sweden, through the project is what gives it a story. But yeah, you can have, as that quote, a cat in a cat's bed is just an image, but a cat in a dog's bed, that's kind of the it's a normal thing, but it becomes this unusual thing because it kind of goes against each other,
Mhm.
and that becomes you kind of you can study it in some
Yeah,
ways. It becomes story. So even funnier would be a big like Doberman or something laying in a cat's bed.
yeah,
That would be like
yeah.
it's an image that would bring attention. It would bring reactions, and that's a
Mhm.
story itself. But I think that's harder, and that's maybe me being lazy as well. But I find it harder to tell a story through one image than it is to do it through a project.
Mm.
But that's kind of the individual thing as well. I've come to realize that I prefer working towards projects rather than one single image, even though I'm out all the time taking single images, which I enjoy look at, but maybe they don't belong anywhere right here,
Mhm.
right now. But in 5 years, 1 year, 5 years, if I look back and I find a similarity between different images, but with the same kind of red thread, suddenly that becomes a project. And that's nothing I'm aware of right now, but maybe I will be aware of it when I see it
Mhm.
later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you don't you don't necessarily go out and plan to, because a lot of your Instagram images are not just like one image, there's multiple images on a single click.
Yeah.
So when you go out, you don't necessarily try to capture multiple images that you want to put together later. You may
No.
look back in your catalog for images that will work well with the image that you took today, will work together with an image maybe you took a year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so how do you have a process for curating that, or
So I think because Instagram for me is basically just sharing a post. I'm not active on Instagram. I'm not trying to be like this influencer doing reels and stuff. I always post for myself. If I get likes, fine. But the last post I did, it was a trip to Gothenburg with my fiance Malin. And if I feel, sometimes I will just post 5, 10, 15, 20 images of that trip of the same day. And sometimes when I feel it's a little bit incomplete, or maybe if I'm thinking, okay, so maybe I do a post about cars, that's when I kind of go back in the catalog, because I have this. I'm just gonna show. No, actually, I'm on the wrong computer. Sorry. I'm on
is
a
it on?
laptop. I have everything on my stationary PC. Okay, I'm not gonna show that now.
Okay.
Not gonna complicate it. But I have all these folders. I always organize everything, and I do the date, where I was, and if I was with someone. So if I'm out in a city, I know the cities around here, so I will just look into the folder, see did I take any car pictures here, and I would select all those images into a separate folder just for the Instagram reel, not reel, carousel, and I would just drag everything in there until I have enough images that I think, okay, and I will start to look through them and select a few of them, 10, 20 images, depending on how big I want it. And that's pretty much it. Most of the posts I do are from maybe not the same location, but the same kind of stage, put it that way. So if I'm in a city, there's always be city images following. If I'm by the sea, it will always be by the sea photos. And of course, gravel roads as well.
Right. So you're trying to connect them, through a common theme.
Yeah.
And that's something I've never done. I've never put images together that say I took today with images I took maybe a year or 2 years ago, and then tried to create a story that way, or tell a story that way, because but it makes a lot of sense. Why rely on just one day's worth of shots, right? Because as you said, as every photographer knows, you go out, sometimes there's nothing, maybe one frame that you keep. But then if you compare that with the one frame from a year ago, from 2 years ago, all of a sudden, this is it comes together nicely. And when you're putting them together, like I said, you're curating them. You put 20 into a folder, then you get it down to 10, and you look for some connection between them. How many, like, do you think about the order of the images also? Like, what should go first, what should go last? Is it just chronological, or?
No, I don't think much of it at all, actually. The only time I've done that is for the exhibition, really. I think it's a good practice if you actually, like, I see these great photographers like Mark Forbes and Mark Power on Instagram. When they are showing their images, it feels like they are actually curating and putting them in a certain sequence. You get a certain feeling throughout the whole thing. I don't do that too often myself, honestly, but I try to. The first image is what people see. So I try to get one image that's kind of clickable, put it that way.
Sure.
And then
you
I
want to
would
get their attention.
Yeah, exactly. Just as YouTube thumbnail. And then I would maybe try to follow it a little bit. Like, let's say I have a light on, like a lamp, normal lamp on the first image, I would try to do something with lamps, the two next images.
Mm-hmm.
And then I changed the subject and I tried to, maybe it's shapes, that's the main thing. So I would do shapes for 3 images and then I switch to another. So sometimes I do it like that. Sometimes I just say, okay, that's the one of the best photos. That's the first. And then just upload the rest.
Okay. So what I like is that you don't try to overthink it, right?
No.
A lot of times it's because I'm sure I'm not the only one, but you kind of run into this paralysis by overthinking it, and then you never get anything together or anything done. When you should just do it, and okay, these things are related. This one looks like the most interesting. I'll put that first, and then the rest can just go in.
Yep.
And let me share that, and then people can kind of come up with their own story from the story you originated with.
Exactly. I cannot force anyone to feel the same way I did about an image, because if we look at the same, let's say we have this beautiful sunset image in front of us, you would probably feel something, you would pay attention to something completely different than I would pay attention to. And that's nothing we as photographers can control, how the actual audience that sees the image, how they feel or how they interpret a scene.
Right.
So I think as photographers, we do the best we can, and the rest is out of our control. The people
Right.
who resonate with it, they will resonate with it, and those who don't, they don't.
Right. Right. Because when I approach a scene, my thoughts go immediately to all of the rules of composition without regard to how I'm feeling at the moment. And that's something that is very different than I think your approach, because like a sunrise or sunset, I think about foreground, midground, background. I think about trying to create some depth. Where is the texture coming from? Where are the light and shadows? Where are my leading line? I just go into this checklist, so to speak, of items that I said, okay, this is going to be a great shot, but I never step back and think about the story, or what story am I trying to tell? Am I just creating another image that everybody else can do? So with that in mind, do you have like a checklist when you walk into you look at a scene, like you were talking earlier about how you analyze, like something caught your eye and then you stand there for about 5 minutes and you try and figure out what it is about that? Is there a checklist, or what are the things you think about when you look at a scene or try to set the stage?
No, not really, not in that sense. In the beginning, absolutely, but that's because I wasn't familiar with the camera yet. I wasn't. My knowledge about the camera wasn't at the level I knew what it can do and cannot do. So I would take a bunch of images with a bunch of different settings, and hopefully something would work. But now when I know my camera, I know the dynamic range. Let's say that I see, and let's see if I actually have this image. Let's go with this one, actually. You don't mind if I share an image,
No,
right?
absolutely.
And we're going back here.
It's okay. Take your time.
Share window, and that's the image share there. So this image right here, if you just look at it like this, it's nothing special, and it's kind of dark in the foreground, but all the highlights are exactly where I wanted it to be. And this part right here is the only sunlit part. That was the whole thing I saw. This is actually from a small project from myself called A Walk at Home. And all of these images are shot in JPEG, so there's nothing much I can do in post afterwards. Of course, there's a little bit of room, but nothing enough that I can recover too much highlight or recover too much shadow. So when I took this image, because I was standing in a shadow, I just knew that, okay, I want the shadow to be dark. I want it to be this dark part of the frame because the highlights in the foreground is what I want to highlight. That's basically the only technical thing I did in this composition, aside of actually framing that middle little part over here in the middle.
Yeah.
That's basically,
Yeah.
but this is the only sunlit part of the whole frame. And let's see if I can move to the next picture here. And the same thing here. I knew that my highlights, this house right here is basically the only sunlit part. And you can see this is the storm, but it's all of it is has a lot of retained details. Nothing is overblown. But then if you look at the shadow, yeah, here's really, really, really dark. It's almost crushed even. And that's the creative thing I did because I wanted it to be dark.
Mm-hmm.
But I never go through a checklist, like you say, like front to back focus, or you want this and that, and how do I set my shutter speed and everything like that. I just basically decide, how do I want this image to feel? What do I feel is the important part of this image?
Yeah, because before you move on,
Yeah.
go back to that last one. I just want to say that if I was standing there, I would not have taken this shot because I don't see really any compositional rules that I can really apply to this.
Yeah.
Right? Other than maybe a little bit of depth, you know, with the layering of the trash container, with the shed there, and then the house behind it. But then there's this big tree right in the middle. And yet,
Obnoxious big.
but really, this is a really amazing image, and it's one that I would have totally walked by.
Yeah.
And now when I look at it, I start to think about, you know, what is this? What is going on here? You know, what kind of story am I building in my brain about this image?
Mm.
Why did I, you know, meaning I start with the same idea of why do I like this image, right? There's something about it. And now I'm going to try and analyze it and try to think of, okay, what is it I'm feeling? What is it I'm thinking about? What story is coming to mind when I look at this picture? And
Yeah.
it's like I said, this is a great shot, one that I would easily walk right by and not thought twice about. So
Yeah.
just
And I
give you a
think, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, but I think also when it comes to storytelling, is that this project, A Walk at Home, the whole story is that I'm, as the photographer, are walking the same route every single time. It's 6 kilometers in a round loop, and I'm walking the same way all the time. And I literally see the same scenes every single time I walk it. And how many times can I walk this and see something new?
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole premise of the video. That was the whole, not video, sorry, of the project. It's not really a project, but it's a personal project. And how many times can I walk this route and see something new? And that has led, it's a mix of these kind of images. There's horses, there's cows, there's wide open spaces, there's tight spaces, there's some experiment with the depth of field. But
Mm-hmm.
so far, every single time I've done this, I've walked it maybe 10 times, maybe a little bit more actually. And I've always seen something new. I've never come back with the same image that I kind of saved.
Yeah.
So I think when you come to storytelling in that sense, the story for me here, that's the same route. How many times can I walk this route and get the same image? Not the same, get a new image. But when you analyze one single image like this, maybe you don't see anything. This image doesn't maybe provide enough context to show what the project is about, you know?
Right. Right. Then that's part of, like you were saying, putting this image, I think, does stand on its own, but when you put it together with other images, can really, show what you were trying to show, what your story is all about. The story is not about this one image. The story is in this being part of other image.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And this doesn't really tell anything either when you look at it by itself. I like this symmetry of the birch trees and everything like that, and you have this small house on the left, so you can see there's something living there, and you have this small pole here. There's a lot of standing symmetry here,
Hmm.
vertical symmetry even.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. A lot of verticals,
Yeah,
but they're all
and
arranged in a way. I forget the photographer that does that, but you arranged everything so that you could see each one, right?
yeah,
Nothing
exactly.
overlaps each other really, but they're staggered in a way that you can see each individual tree.
Yeah. When we walk to this suddenly this is really abstract kind of. This is a horse's house, and it's completely black here, and it's almost overblown up here, and it's really heavily cropped as well. But I wanted this image to be when I saw this image on the computer, I actually cropped it down to 16 by 9, and I cropped in this heavily on it because that's what I saw when
Mhm.
when I was there. I saw all these small hairs standing out, and I don't care that this image is 3680 by 270. It's a lot smaller. It's not
Yeah,
many megapixels here anymore because I heavily cropped it. But it
yeah,
doesn't matter really, because together with all these other images, you you see all of the you see the same walk over and over, because you will see similarities in the same. I only selected a few images here, but you if you look at the
yeah.
whole project, you will see the same roads, but you will see different kind of
Right.
scenes.
Same roads, same species of trees and plant
Yeah,
life, certain landmarks maybe. Uh,
exactly.
yeah. And again, there's even with that horse's photo, you still give, like, go back to the horse photo, you still, even though this is a very, very tight crop, you still give a lot of breathing room to the ear, right? Which is really the only lit part of the horse.
Yeah,
So even when you are cropping in, you're still following sort of that same idea of giving your image room to breathe overall. Just like
yeah.
go back to the next one that you had. Uh,
This one.
yeah, again, this is not too dissimilar from the one you showed earlier, where you framed like a little speck of like baby trees growing up in the
Yeah.
middle, but this time you have them all the way at the end.
Yep.
But there's all this room around the image, uh, and it's still, there's just a lot of, I don't know, it's like an emptiness here that I have a trouble articulating, but this is a very really striking image as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is literally everyone's everyday life. This happens all over the world every single day. And I think we as photographers, if we just accept, like, if we can be present, if we can try to be present in every single day, as I mentioned earlier, if we try to be present every single day, you will see stuff like this. This is a very simple image. It's just one triangular piece of light and everything else is in shadow.
Yeah.
And everyone would normally just walk past this.
Yeah, I wouldn't have bothered to take this shot at all. And yet I will say, on one hand, this is everyday life for you, but not for me.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And when I look at it, I'm like, wow, I've never seen so many. I think those are, I don't know what kind of tree that is, but I don't see those trees where I live at all. And well, that one I do. That's like, looks like an evergreen or something. But the trees lining up the road, I don't
Yeah.
see those very often here.
So we have a lot of woods down here where I live. It's even more, you can say woodland, I guess. If you go further up north, it's even more woods. But it's quite enough down here. It's more farmland and everything like down
Yeah.
here. And that's also another part that I struggled with, because when I started doing photography again in 2024, early 2024, I wanted to be a pure landscape photographer. Like, I wanted to do mountain peaks, deep valleys, amazing rivers and waterfalls, That's what I wanted to do. And because I had this mindset that is what I want to do, I didn't see anything else. I just waited until the weekend and I drove somewhere, and I did research during the weekdays and tried to find a place where I could find this mountain or whatever. And there's nothing that, like, there aren't much mountains down in southwest of Sweden. We have a lot of farmland and we have the west coast. That's what we have.
Right.
So if I would have to, like, if I want mountains, I would have to drive 10 to 15 hours up north to get the mountains I'm after. And I can't do that. Like, I only have 2 days, weekend, And I've told the story before, but I was driving to a job an early morning, and I just glanced over. Like, I was frustrated because I wanted to do landscape photography, the traditional landscape photography, and all I had was this farmland. It was the sunrise, and the sun has just become go over the tree tops, and I saw this old weathered barn out in the field, and there was this low-laying fog out in the field, and the sun just came up above it, and it just lightened the whole scene up so beautifully.
Yeah.
And that sparked this whole, okay, I need to experiment with this. I need to try to see the beauty of this. And this is also the beginning of mellanrummet, the spaces in between. But the spaces in between has evolved during all of this to what it is today.
The scene you just described is exactly what you wanted to shoot, some beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, there it is. Right here on my way to work.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I can see where that inspired you to say, okay, well, if I got this right here in my own backyard, what else is there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's
beauty. I mean, if you're interested of cars and you only want to photograph cars, maybe there's a small car event going on an hour away or something. Go to it, or maybe there is just a car by the road. Yeah, take a picture of it. And if you like portraits, like traditional portraits, yeah, you have friends and family that you can experiment with. And, there's always something, if you just look a little bit further than the specific thing you have right in front of you. I was stuck there, so I'm not trying to be above anyone, but I was stuck here. I only saw this wall. I want to be a landscape photographer, and I don't have deep valleys and high mountains. My mindset was so stuck in that feeling that I didn't see anything else. But if you just look beyond it, maybe bend a little bit to the sides, you will see so much things going on.
Yeah, yeah. Being present in the moment, so to speak, is about the closest thing to what you're trying to say, but it's not exactly the same.
Mm.
It's I think you're yeah, it just realizing what's right in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Uh, can be amazing. And don't overthink it. Don't have a checklist like I do.
It's nothing wrong
Uh,
with that. That works for you. So
well, it works for
I
me, but you know, at the same time, my photography. If I look at my photography today or 10 years ago, it's exactly the same. I don't feel like I've
okay.
really improved, other than my technical skill. But
Yeah.
my photography in of itself is pretty much the same. There's nothing striking or dramatic about it, other than how did you capture a dragonfly flying? You know, because that's hard.
Yeah, yeah, I can
Uh,
imagine.
you know, it's like, well, that's mostly technical skill, hasn't, but the image itself is nothing special. It's just filling the
Mm.
frame with the subject, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, whereas that's where your photography is very different, in that you're taking very mundane, boring things that I just, like I said, the one shot I pointed out, I would just walk by. I wouldn't even think twice about taking it. I was like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
There's no composition here. And yet, when you put it in the context of, you know, this is the 6 kilometers I walk, you know, 10 times, and then put that with other images of giving a lot of breathing room and looking for geometry, uh, you know, so that you create your own style. Because
Yeah.
I could walk that same path and I have a very different style.
Mm.
Uh, and we'd have two very different stories, I think. So, one thing I wanted to ask you though is I noticed a lot of the images you shared here, you know, are black and white.
Yep.
Um, did you have any color ones you want to share with us by any chance?
If you just give me a moment, I can get some
Okay.
images actually, because
And while
I
you're
do
doing
have
that,
access.
because I saw a question here from Anthony just now about if Home Assistant introduced a monochrome only camera, if you'd be interested.
Yeah. I saw that question as well. I don't know actually, because I don't see why I should limit myself, because I do both color and black and white. It just
Mhm.
happens to be that I shot a lot of black and white for the project I've been working on, because as people know from my YouTube, they have basically been following me through my whole journey when it
Mhm.
comes to photography. So the project I've been working on, that's been black and white. It started
Mm.
out as a mix between black and white and color, because I was taking pictures of everything,
Mhm.
um, until it gonna kind of got down to the to what it is today. I
Okay.
can show some images here. Let me
So
see if I can.
just one other question would be,
Yeah.
so maybe when you take a shot, you don't have a story in mind yet?
No. The only thing I have in mind when I'm out on my gravel roads, I always have, okay, so I'm gonna shoot some images for mellanrummet,
Mhm.
but then I don't do the selection out in the field, and I never do like, okay, this image, this is going to be in a project. That's never, like, I take an
Mhm.
image that I feel represents something,
Mhm.
but not until I get home I will look
Okay.
through it and kind of, okay, so is this image similar to another image that's maybe better or something like that?
Right. Right. Okay.
Going
That
to,
explains why you have so many images sort of put together rather than individual images.
yeah, exactly. So you're going to see my whole screen here, but I'm going down
Mhm.
to this image here. Let me see if I
Okay.
can. So this is the latest trip I did with Malin
Mhm.
to Gothenburg. Hide that. I wonder if I can function. Oh, I can't do full screen. Okay, never mind then. And these images are basically, almost all of these images are in color. There's a few black and white as well, depending on the mood I was after. And this image, this is literally 5 meters from the car when we got there. And I just started seeing all the vertical lines. There's vertical lines everywhere in this frame. And that's what kind of caught my eye. And going to this one, this is just a little bit of color harmony in this image. You have blue, you have red, you have yellow, you have blue, more orange and yellow, and the sky. And still a lot of breathing room, even though there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So even though I'm walking in a city, I'm using the same base concept as I do on my gravel roads, but in color instead, I guess.
Right.
And the same here. There's something lit up and the rest is dark. And this is all about mood, in my opinion. And so I shoot a lot of color and I shoot a lot of black and white, but all of my projects so far, the actual work I've done, has been black and white. I don't know really why, but it just felt right.
Yeah. Well, black and white does lend itself to the elements I'm seeing of breathing room and geometry, you know.
Yeah.
But the way, yeah, you do tend to capture a lot of uh, strong shadows, right? To
Yeah.
contrast the harsh the harsh lighting.
Yeah, I love doing that, actually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna click out of this and see if I can find this image right here. This is one of my favorites from that day. Can I zoom in?
Probably have to roll your mouse.
Oh yeah, thank you. So this guy, this is a bright this is a bright sunny day. It's
Yeah.
really warm, and you see this guy walking down the stairs with a headlamp on him.
Huh.
And I just pulled the camera fast up like this, and I didn't even frame anything. I just took the image.
Yeah. Well, at first I thought it was maybe just the sun peeking through, but then if you look at the shadows on the steps, that's not the sun.
No, exactly. So it's this is one of my favorite shots from the day, and I did it. This is kind of like this creative decision afterwards in post, because in color this didn't work at all. I'm gonna see if I can find the same image right here, and you can see here. This is, by the way, 2026, and this is 2026. July 8th, Gothenburg with Malin. That's basically what I do with all my following. Here it is. So this is, of course, unedited, but this doesn't have the same feel.
Exactly.
It doesn't like shine up as well
Totally
as the black
different.
and white. Yeah. And this like creative decision, I feel you only get with practice, of course. You kind of know what you're looking for. Like when you see the image, how do I interpret this right here, right now? So I always photograph, because we were talking a little bit about color, right? So I always take my photos in color, and I decide afterwards what is supposed to be color or not. And that also kind of depends on the feeling I want to convey. I know I have a photo. You can see I take a lot of images.
Yeah.
And not all of them will be. So one of these it is. I'm just going in on this one. So this is one of the images. I decided right here, right now, that I wanted to make this image dark. So I underexposed this image really, really much in camera, because I wanted to save these highlights a little bit. And when we have the final, I'm just gonna scroll up here. The final image, it looks like this.
Yeah.
And I think this conveys a bigger feeling than using it in color.
Yeah.
So I always decide, or I almost always decide afterwards. If I'm out doing stuff like this, I always decide afterwards what feeling I want to convey.
Yeah.
But I kind of see during the scene if I want it to be brighter or darker. That's kind of what I always figure out on the spot, if I want the image to be dark or if I want it to be bright. So this image is always also really dark on one side here. It's almost pitch black, and it's very nice highlight details here, and his shirt is very bright here. But then if we look at should be further down, like these ones, they are very bright. They're very what's called lively, is that word? Full of life. And that's because, I overexposed by maybe one stop in camera because I wanted this image to be bright and lively.
Wow.
But that's basically the only creative decision I make during the spot. That's the only thing I really see. And I know my presets, when I work with them, like orange, blue, and all of these complementary colors, they work the best when the photo is brighter. So I always try to get the exposure as I want it in the field.
Right. Yeah, that's really important, is getting the exposure you want in camera first,
Yeah.
and then adjusting, because you already have some idea in mind, and it helps to have a good starting point, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really change other than converting the black and white. It doesn't seem like you need to do a lot of editing, right?
No, not really. I mean, I have my presets that I've been working out.
Sure.
So, but I rarely need to do anything special when I apply the preset. I only basically adjust the sliders a little bit here and there, but basically I never use masks. I never do any heavy editing. I barely remove anything from my photos at all. Like, one could argue that this corner right here, maybe I should crop this image to remove right about here instead, because this little thing can be annoying to look at. But I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, that perfection doesn't matter for me personally. So if something is a little bit imperfect, I live with it instead.
Yeah, and if you look at any master works from the master photographers in the past, you find a lot of these technical imperfections that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That, we try too hard sometimes, and I'm guilty of this. I overanalyze the composition, and I do so much editing, to photos. Not just my photos, but people send me photos every week that I just process the heck out of. But it's okay.
Absolutely.
Everyone enjoys the hobby differently, right? And
Exactly.
that's all that matters, is the journey, not so much the destination.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I want to ask the audience, if you have any questions for Jimmy, now's a good time to put them into the chat section. But while you're doing that, because there's always a little delay, I wanted to ask you, we talked about a lot of things, and I have a pretty good feel for your photography and the approach that you take. And I'm going to see if I can apply those principles, in myself, right? Because there's so many days I'm so bored with the locations around where I live sometimes, and I'll have to definitely take your approach of just going out there maybe 10 times and see, and take photos and then come back, because I think too hard in the field. I think too hard about the composition and everything when I'm there, versus you take the shot and then you think about it later.
Yeah,
you know, you have your core things, you know, you have sort of this instinct to take the shot sometimes, you know, like the guy walking down the stairs with the headlamp. There's sort of an instinct there, but a lot of your photos, like your little walk that you said you did 10 times,
Yeah.
uh, those are not that. Those are just about just going out every time and trying to get something different, and then analyzing it later and then putting it together to create the story rather than trying to have one shot be the entire trip, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Uh, so that's kind of my takeaway, but I wanted to ask you what, you know, if you could give one thing that people should take away from our chat today, what would it be?
Mm. One thing, do it for yourself.
Mm,
100% do it for yourself. Do don't try to please an audience in some way, because I know my audience is very aware of this, because like the majority of my audience is 65 plus. That's my core audience, and I love that because
mhm.
there's so much knowledge. Like there's people with 40, 50, 60 years of experience, and
Yeah,
I am with 2.5, 3 years in.
yeah,
I have so much to learn, and but all of them are agreeing on the same thing, that they take photos for themselves. Like they don't care about making a perfect photo, because it doesn't matter how perfectly you compose something or how perfect the light is or the subject, because not everyone are gonna feel the same thing watching the image
mhm,
anyway. So they do it for themselves, and I think that's the important thing. Like do it for yourself, and don't care too much about what other people think of your work.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice, and I think a great example of that is if you're familiar with Vivian Mayer, right?
Yeah.
You know, nobody saw her photos until somebody after she passed on, and somebody bought a box of negatives or something. I don't know the whole story, but uh, clearly she was just doing it for herself. She didn't publish
Mm.
anything, and but the good thing is we can do it ourselves, publish
Yeah.
them and share them as we please, without regard to what other people might think of it. And
Yeah.
it's just enjoying the craft. I think that's a great lesson. It's just do it for yourself, enjoy it. Don't get too hung up on competitions and what people think about your photography. If you like it, that's all that matters.
Mm. Very
Uh,
much so. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, I can't believe you've only really been back into this for a couple of years, because the you know what I saw on your Instagram was just amazing,
Oh,
amazing
thank
for
you.
just only a couple of years. I'm gonna just pull that up real quick again,
Absolutely.
and like let me start here with the shadow here. So this was your first time, but my gosh, you got about a dozen images in here,
Yeah.
and you even have a color one.
Even a color one, yeah. I think
Yeah,
there's a few more color ones. And like that image
that's
just there with my
this
fiance
one.
sitting on the bench,
Hmm.
this is not like a photo that maybe I would publish to some kind of work, unless the work would be something personal, like something related to me and my fiance. That's the only time I would use it. So that image has a purpose, but not in the current works I do. But for me, that has like a big value, because this
Yeah,
is a day we spent together doing something we both really enjoy.
yeah. But I still find that it does fit in very well, particularly with, I think, even just this last one, because that's her again, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Helps have a friend, right? To get some street shots. But uh, these two tie together very nicely, I think. And you know, with this one, just really amazing shots that I would just walk by, not even think about, And I'm seeing these for the first time, but they're really, really something. But I do see some common themes with triangles and balance.
Yeah.
But you do like this one's slightly overexposed
Yep.
to be very bright and lively. Yeah, this is great stuff. And like wow, look at this. Look at this. This is just some toy boat through a window.
Yeah. What I really liked about that image is that
Hmm.
you have the bright part under, and you can kind of imagine it being some kind of ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really amazing shot.
And this,
Yeah.
I don't think I wrote that in that. My mind told me I go to the coast yesterday. I wanted to try some like where I did some straight out of camera photography with the T-Max inspired recipe I've been enjoying lately. So
Hmm.
at this point, it was in early 16 weeks ago, so it was a while ago. I was in a place in my head where I wasn't feeling good about myself. And this T-Max inspired recipe, very dark, very contrasty, not a lot of highlights. It reflected my mood at that
Yeah.
time. That's the story in these images, even though
Yeah.
they all taken in the same place, you know.
Yeah, I totally see that because this does feel a little bit sort of down
Yeah,
and lonely and yeah, just not a happy place, so to speak.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually exactly how I was feeling at that time as well.
Mm.
I saw a few questions. Do you mind if I
Yeah, let's
reply to some
I'm sorry.
questions?
I was just got involved in your photography, so let me go ahead and end that. Let's go in and see yeah, go ahead and
Actually,
address
yeah. So I saw
where you went.
Anthony actually asked way before the stream started about if I would like to see a on-off switch appear on the shutter button
Mhm.
for easier access to turn on and off, I guess, the camera during winter when you use gloves. And I
Mhm.
don't think that's a bad idea because I don't see the use of actually having the on off on this side because normally you can handhold the camera and turn it off like this.
Right.
You are able to change on the function button as well, of course, but I don't think that's a bad idea actually. I can't use gloves because as soon as I put gloves on, I don't get any circulation in my hands and they
Oh,
get freezing cold.
ooh,
And I can't move them at all. So in
yeah.
the winter, I just basically put my hands in the pockets and I live I live like that.
Oh God.
But I really think it's a good idea. I think Sony has it on the pointer finger
Yeah,
on the
a lot
shutter.
of cameras they try to make as many controls accessible to the right hand as possible. Uh,
Yeah,
but and the on-off switch is one of them that's almost always on the right hand.
yeah,
Uh, you know, that design is something I think Olympus and now OM Systems is kind of in their design philosophy from
mm.
back from the old film day camera where the on-off was on the left side. But it didn't
All
matter back then
right. Yeah,
because you know, film cameras didn't use batteries, or if it did, it was irrelevant, you know.
yeah,
Whereas now, you know, you want to conserve battery or you just want to pick up, you know, for whatever reason, everybody makes things on the right. I'm kind
yeah.
of fine either way, but I do think it's a design philosophy to a fault, right? They can change it if they want to. Like
Absolutely.
Fujifilm changed their design philosophy from having, you know, an aperture ring and shutter speed dial, you know, to like their X20s
Mm.
or the XH2, which has a mode dial, PASM.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
they don't stick to one design philosophy. But anyhow, yeah, definitely, I would strongly recommend OM Systems add some sort of dial or switch to the shutter button to make it more tactile.
Yeah.
'Cause right now it's very soft, right? You just
Yep.
roll your finger over it, it's great if you're trying to minimize camera shake, I guess, but uh, who knows? Did you see another
Yeah,
one there, or
yeah, absolutely. John asked, Jimmy, I enjoyed the geometry in your work and your images don't shout, but are subtle. Does geometry find you or you find it? And I think that's a really interesting question, because I've always been really good at seeing patterns and seeing things like that. So, but it didn't click for me in my photography right away. But when it clicked, I can't unsee it instead. So now, everything I see now is geometry, lights, shapes, everything like that. So I've always been good at seeing geometry, shapes, and stuff like that.
mhm.
But it didn't click in my photography until it did, and when it did, I can't like go back.
Yeah.
It's destroying my life.
No, 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 no. It's like you said, I think it's about seeing things when you're at a place. You know, seeing.
Yeah,
In your case, you look for the geometry is one of your things, right? But
yeah,
like I said, I just walk by so many things without thinking about it that you've captured. You know, like I said, if I was in that same location, I wouldn't have bothered with those shots. But somehow you pulled something out. This is a good question too about, do you usually go out with just one lens or do you take several?
so for the last, well, over a year, I've been just walking out with the ohm system 20 millimeters f1.4 Pro. That's been my go-to lens for well over a year. No, sorry, now I lied. Actually, I've been using 20 millimeters over a year, but when I so I will. How do I phrase this? I basically go out with only one lens. Yeah, so I only go out with one lens. I've always been using my 20 millimeters, whether it's being the Lumix 20 millimeters f1.7 or the OM system 20 millimeters f1.4.
Yeah.
Those has been my go-to lenses. But quite recently, actually, I went back to the 1245 f4 Pro instead.
Hmm.
And that's basically because I realized I was more and more walking, trying to walk forward or backward. So something was missing from the frame. And
Mm.
this only came with time, that I realized that I needed a little bit of zoom. So I went back to the 1245, and that's been on the camera now since then. It's
Yeah.
quite recently, actually.
Right. It's still one lens, but
Yeah, it's still one
you know,
lens. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I noticed I didn't really see any shallow depth of field images in
No.
your portfolio. I mean, it's kind of an uphill battle anyway with Micro Four Thirds, but uh, you know, you're not trying, right? You're just capturing the frame or the stage, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love the 12 to 45. I found that uh, when you're starting out, I think it is good practice to just go out with one lens, a
Mm.
prime lens, and practice with that focal length. And so you can focus on your composition for that particular focal length. But as you progress, it's, you know, going back to a zoom lens is no big deal because when you see a scene, you know
Mm.
what focal length you want. And
Yeah.
you can just zoom into it very quickly. You don't have to practice, say, your composition so much anymore as you do in capturing images that you want to capture without having to swap a lens.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's, you know, that's, so a lot of people ask me the same question, you know, do I go out with one lens or multiple? I go out with multiple, but typically like the 12 to 45 will be my primary lens of choice. Because I already know in my head if I see a scene what focal length I want to use
Yeah.
to capture it, you know. But that's anyway, that's that. So All right, Jimmy, why don't we wrap it up here? Unless you saw another question, but I think
The only one I saw here is also from
uh-huh.
John asking, what do you do on days when you get frustrated with your photography?
Oh, okay. Good question. I
Yeah,
missed that one.
it's a hard one, honestly.
Hmm.
It's really, as I said earlier, we're all humans, we're all people, and sometimes it's just really hard to get out of your own head. And I think it's just a process of not necessarily pick up the camera and do it anyway, because you won't feel inspired, you won't be open to see, to actually be observant of the surroundings. You will just be like, eh, you know.
Yeah.
So what I do, I don't force myself to do photography when I have those days. I accept that. I enjoy YouTube content instead, or as I've been working on lately, I've actually I've pulled this apart and I cleaned it and I corrected some the focus arms because the owner before me or owners before that has dropped it on its front part, so the focus arms was like really bent. So I've tried to fix that camera. That's what I've been doing the last week.
Mm.
And I'm actually in this kind of state where I feel a little bit uninspired or frustrated because this summer was supposed to be a summer where I spent out with a farmer, and I was going to document their daily life, basically be a fly on a wall,
Hmm.
and that just hasn't happened. It
Mm.
just didn't happen. So I've been frustrated not doing photography as much as I wanted to be this summer.
Yeah.
So I've been doing stuff like this instead. I still like do photography related stuff, but I don't necessarily take photos. Um, that's kind of my way of dealing with it.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, because it is a tough question to answer, because we're all different, and we all approach our issues differently.
Mm.
In your case, you find other activities, still photography related, but not
Yeah,
necessarily just taking photos.
exactly.
For me, I like to organize my lens cabinet, or
Yeah,
things like that. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I had this lens, and then it
yeah.
inspired me to take that out. Sometimes my
Just
inspiration
need a
will
little
come from
push.
doing things like that.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, everybody has to approach it differently. I I like to look at uh, the masters of photography, their works, and what they did. I'm definitely gonna be looking at yours now. I'm just can't believe in 2 years you're able to do the kind of work that you do. It's very it's like when you meet somebody, you've ever heard somebody say you have a very old spirit.
oh,
You
thank
know,
you.
um, it's definitely, there's a certain maturity to your photography that I still strive to do myself. And I've been shooting. I thought I've been shooting a short time, like only 13 or 14 years now. Uh, but gosh, you've just been at it for a couple of years. I mean, aside from everybody had a point and shoot one day in their life, right? But
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
but if to take photography seriously, only a couple of years at it, that's amazing. And that's why it's a great honor and pleasure to have you with me today. And I
Yeah,
look
thank you
forward
for
to what
having
you're
me.
going to do in 10 years from now. um, it's just amazing. So, uh, any last words for us, Jimmy, before we go, and I'll wrap it up for us.
No, just thank you so much for having me. It was really great, and it's some great questions as well. And it's been a really nice discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been really nice. I
yeah.
appreciate you having me.
Oh, it's like I said, the pleasure is mine. So thanks again, Jimmy, and thank you everyone for joining us today and for your questions. As always, my last words are always to have a great day. Try to do that every day, and you'll have a good life. Eat healthy and exercise. And I want to see you guys all again soon.